Well, hello there, everyone. It's great to be back on YourTV for another update for the city of Belleville as we deal with these COVID-19 times. And this week's update is for the week of May the 10th. And we continue with a state of emergency that the provincial government has brought in. That's continued since March the 17th of 2020, so last year, so it's been quite some time. But currently we are under a stay-at-home order all across Ontario, including here in the Prince Edward Hastings Health Unit territory. And we appreciate everybody who is cooperating to try to reduce the spread of COVID in these times. Now, I always start off with a little bit of an update on what the numbers were at the beginning of the week. And this week, on Monday this week, we had 7 new cases that day, which brought us to 81 active cases at this time. There are 18 people who are in hospital. There are 8 people who are in an intensive care unit, and there are 6 people who are on ventilators. So this is a very serious illness, and we have to continue to be careful about it. But the bright news, or on the bright side, I should say, is that we've also now just had under 67,000 total vaccinations given to residents of our health unit region, including 4,618 folks who have gotten both doses, which means they are fully vaccinated. And we're about 37% of the population in our region has had their first dose, which is a good number, and it's a number that is consistent with those numbers provincially. But that was before we are now going to see a real increase in number of vaccines arriving here for distribution. So, this week, I believe that folks that are 40 and above can get vaccinated. Really encourage you to go to the provincial government website and register for a vaccine, as well as register at your local drugstores. I've said to you in the past that you should take whatever vaccines available as soon as possible. And I am optimistic that we are going to see an acceleration. So even if you have appointments booked later on in the year, we will see some real good progress as we get more of those vaccines. And that is what we're looking forward to, and towards what's called that return to normal throughout the summer and into the fall. As I said, we continue in the city to run our operations. Belleville City Hall is still closed to the public. It's appointment only. So if you have business that you have to conduct at City Hall, we're happy to do so, but it is appointment only. All of our outdoor facilities, so our sports fields and our walking trails and all those playgrounds are all open. We just ask people to be careful and to respect each other as we have done. And we are planning to have a full range of activities for outdoor starting after the long weekend. And that's subject to the provincial government's decisions, but currently we continue to work on the basis of having full outdoor activities, including allowing rental of our sports fields and sports activities to be happening. So our staff continue to work. The Quinte Sports and Wellness staff, all of those indoor activities are now, the ones they can, have been put on Zoom. And I hear from lots of residents about how much they love their Zoom fitness classes that our staff are doing at the Quinte Sports and Wellness Center. And the library is still doing, curbside drop-off pickup service. Everyone's trying to get through this, but that's wonderful. And I should say, just as on the topic of vaccinations, before I forget, we will see in the month of June, the Quinte Sports and Wellness Center activate a vaccination clinic. The health unit will be using one of the arenas there, and we're looking forward to having this mass inoculation center to help with vaccine distribution. This week, Belleville City Council on Monday, May the 10th, had another City Council meeting. We again met virtually based on the stay-at-home orders in the province, but also because Belleville City Council chambers are under renovation. And I think that you may have remembered in previous videos where we sort of did an update. Today, I'm working from home because the entire 4th floor at Belleville City Hall has no power. They are working to do some of the electrical upgrades that we require for all of the technology. If you remember, we haven't done anything in that area really since 1988, the last time of renovation. So there's lots of updating and upgrading that needs to happen. And I'm looking forward to sharing some photos with your viewers at some point in the future about that. But we continued this week at our city council meeting electronically, and we took a number of actions. First of all, we're so pleased to be working with the downtown Belleville improvement area, where they are preparing for their outdoor activities. Last summer we had a really successful alfresco group of activities down there, and they are back. So Belleville City Council has given approval for outdoor patios for those restaurants that are downtown, but also for an alfresco event through the whole summer, including artisan markets. And so we're excited to be able to do that. We know that the farmers market is so important to so many people, where they get to buy their fresh, locally grown produce. And we're going to have these artisan markets during the summer. Some road closures. We have these parklets, which is patios that have been extended onto some of the parking spaces downtown. And we're getting ready for a busy summer in a safe way. At council, we also approved a tender from Coburg Development. So they're going to start a project to redo all of the roads and sidewalks and water and sanitary services on Orchard Drive and Pringle Drive. And so that's important work, because we continue to sort of knock off projects in that neighborhood. The big one after that will be Prince of Wales. And we are starting to do some work on the engineering for that. And that will upgrade water quality for residents in that area, obviously make their roads a lot more smooth, because they're really in a state of disrepair, but also really set us up for the future in that area. At council, we also approved a contract with Loyalist College for them to monitor the new active transportation or bike path from Mahar Place on the west end of the city all the way to Avonlow Road. We extended that as part of our bicycle and active transportation network. And Loyalist College right now are building a bridge over the creek on the west side of Avonlow Road. And it's going to be fantastic when it's all done. But there is, between Mahar Place and Avonlow Road, right now there is a fair amount of space that is kind of isolated, and we were concerned about people using that at night. And while the trail is absolutely beautiful, we also wanted it to be safe. So we have contracted with Loyalist College to have security cameras installed there and communication with people that are walking, so that if there is some danger, they can be kept safe. And Loyalist College, their security guards that are already monitoring the campus will also be monitoring that trail. So really a great partnership with Loyalist College. It's a great service. If you haven't had a chance to get out there and walk it, I really encourage you to. It's going to be wonderful. It is such a beautiful place. And, the construction company did such a great job with it. The benches, the lights, the trail itself, it's all very, very good. And we're looking forward to in June, unveiling the important a previous member of Belleville City Council who we're going to name that trail after. So stay tuned for that. We also this week did a major decision to for the first time since before 2000 to expand the Bayshore Trail system that runs along the Bay of Quinte. And we are going to expand it from Herkimer, we're in the area that Herkimer boat launch, east all the way to the foot of Farley Avenue. We're going to be able to pave and light that section going eastward. And there's also going to be a loop at the end so that you can come back. And our staff came up with a brilliant idea of being able to have some space there for outdoor activities, especially winter activities. And so what I'm talking about is cross-country skiing, snowshoeing, when the weather permits it. It'll be great for people to be able to go down there and to be able to enjoy our wonderful outdoors. And it's part of a consistent theme of this council, this term on council, where we have really been working on outdoor spaces. And certainly COVID has shown how important that is to us. So the last thing I want to talk about that happened at Belleville City Council this week was we had a discussion about the ward boundaries. And I know people say, what's that about? Well, it does deal with elections and the democratic process and how we select our Belleville City councilors. Since 1998, we have had this two-ward system that's referred to as unbalanced because there are two councilors in Thurlow Ward 2, and there are 6 councillors at large in Ward 1. So that 6-2 split is unbalanced. Belleville's changed a lot in the 23 years since 1998. And I have heard from a lot of people, particularly at election time, about some of their items that they're not happy or they're not satisfied with it. And so we didn't make any decisions about making changes. We wanted to start a process to be able to listen to residents. And those of you who watched our council meeting this week on YourTV will have heard that there was a lot of discussion, about an hour and a half of discussion and lots of really, really good points. And ultimately, City Council decided they're going to go ahead and they want to hear from people. There is a proposal for a 4-ward balanced system of equal representation. So 2 councillors in each of the wards. Residents would vote for 2 councillors, they would vote for their mayor, and they would vote for school board trustees in elections. And there's maps, which you can see here, a ward, the 4-ward system for Belleville, what is proposed, as well as the individual maps. And you can go to the city website under the agendas of city council meetings, and you can see for yourself. And that's to start the conversation, because when we talk about ward boundaries, if the 9 of us on Belleville City Council all have something different in mind and we're trying to see feedback, it gets very confusing. So at least we have something that people can look at and they can say, I like it, I don't like it, I think this should change. I've already had several emails, and including some residents who have said, well, we'd like to change the boundary of this ward a little bit more because it makes more sense. Those are all the things that we want to do over the coming weeks and months prior to in August making a decision. It is important for us to do this now because that decision has to be in place by the end of the year if we want to proceed with changes. And we have to give residents enough time to appeal it if they're not happy with what council ultimately decides, to the Land Planning Appeals Tribunal. And so we're trying to give ourselves enough time for that to happen. The finalization of this has to be done by the end of the year, but there are steps that we have to go through legislatively. And I encourage people to give us that feedback. There are really 5 basic reasons that I've heard from people about why we want to see these ward boundary revisions. One is that with the growth in the city in the last 23 years, particularly in the urban part of Thurlow, so north of the 401, that there is an underrepresentation level in that area. So, they need another councillor. You can't just, I don't think we want another councillor to be working for the city. The 8 councillors we have is enough, but we can reallocate them to deal with that. There was an agreement made in 1998 when we did amalgamate with Thurlow that we would retain the voice of rural residents. I think one of the greatest things about Belleville is that we have both realities in our city. We have a very urban, city with transit and, obviously water and sanitary services and street lights and trails and all the wonderful activities we have. But then we also have people who continue to make a living farming, and they live a very different lifestyle than a lot of urban residents. And in 1998, when the deal was made to bring the cities together, there was a commitment made that we would allow the voice of rural Thurlow to have a place at the city council table. And over the years, as Thurlow urban has grown, it is really starting to overtake that rural voice. And so, we want to honor that as a second reason. We also want to make it, I think it's easier for residents to choose the candidates, so they know who's responsible for helping them on issues to bring forward. Sometimes 6 members of council at large makes it difficult, particularly if you're new to Belleville. One of the things I often say is that sometimes elected people, including myself, we think that everybody knows us. And then it just takes a little bit of going out in the community and realizing that a lot of people don't know us and they don't recognize us, and they don't know any of us that are on city council. And so, if you put yourselves in their shoes, they don't know who to call. And when they have a list of 6 people, they're not even sure where to start. So, it makes it easier for residents to choose candidates. In the last election, I believe we had 17 people present in this huge Ward 1 area. And, certainly anybody is able to run, and there'll be lots of candidates, but using it to select 2 counselors could be a little bit easier. We also, these changes also make our municipal democracy stronger with a more direct representation. So people know that these are my 2 counselors, and I can hold them accountable, and they can also seek my input easier. And it also makes our democracy more inclusive by reducing the financial costs and time commitments of running. A ward with 2/3 of the population, as Ward 1 is now, makes it really difficult for candidates to get around. It makes it expensive for new candidates to run. And we want to make it easier for anybody to run and serve on Belleville City Council. And we're looking now for your input. So please feel free to reach out to all of your members of Belleville City Council and myself. Let us know how you think. We're still working on exactly how we can solicit some of that feedback. And on a future episode of my updates, I will give you some more information. But I just wanted to bring you up to date on that to this point. So, busy council meeting yesterday. We went almost 3 hours, although half of it was on the ward boundary issue. But that's why we're there, to think about things, to act on your behalf. And I know that a lot of you reach out and provide us feedback on a wide variety of issues, and certainly I support that. I appreciate that, and I appreciate people letting us know that we're on the right track with so much that we're doing. There is going to be some big news later this month for a number of projects in Belleville, and I'm looking forward to being able to update you on that. But in the meantime, stay safe. Please practice the 3 W's, as I always say: wash your hands, wear a mask, and watch your distance. If you do those things, those are the most effective things we can do as we deal with COVID. But please stay safe. And if there's anything that I or any member of Belleville City Council can do, please feel free to reach out to us. Take care.